You're listening to the Coop Homeschool Podcast.
This is your podcast for community, humility, and joyful fun in homeschooling. I'm Mandy.
I'm Jessica.
And this is
The Coop. It's Road Trips Part 3.
Let's go travel together.
So fun. So today we're talking about living the plan. So you've made the plan, you've got your education materials, and now it's time to live it. And so we have our do's and don'ts.
Yeah. So if you don't want to listen to any of them, just listen to this one.
Right. We'll try and summarize briefly.
Yeah.
So if you already like how you plan road trips and you've got that part covered, here's our do's and don'ts for making sure it's good.
Yeah. Sounds good.
All right. Before we jump in, Mandy, what's your scoop?
So we dissected brains last week. And I was very overwhelmed and nervous about it because they're sheep brains. And I don't know why raw and formaldehyde sheep brains is so gross to me when I deal with raw chicken. I mean, it's still part of an animal, but it just felt really bad.
Chicken is not formaldehyde.
That's true. And I picked the one, so you go online and there's all these different kits. And I picked the one that all the comments were like, it doesn't smell.
Okay.
So it didn't.
Really?
I still did it outside on a folding table,
right,
which is a nice little hack right there.
Yes.
I realized once we were about to unpack it, I'm like, wait, I'm going to go do this outside on our folding table. And I had trays, and then I had bought real dissection tools because the plastic ones can break. And, you know, if you don't have something sharp enough and you're doing it gets
it's not
gross.
A good experience.
Yeah, it
you're
smushes
mashing it.
Yeah, so one of my kids used a real scalpel. You should have seen me trying to put the blade on the scalpel. You use special tweezers, like scissor tweezers, to put the blade on the scalpel. I was like sweating. I'm sweating as we're talking about it.
Right. It was that intense.
Yeah. So, but it was really cool. The kids really loved it, especially the older two. The younger one didn't spend as much time on it, but I felt like it was $20 per brain plus $10 shipping per brain. So it was quite the expense, let me just say.
Yeah.
Plus the dissection tools. But you can buy a kit where all the organs are together. Okay. But I wanted to see how this one went before I bought a whole $35 kit for each kid. And eyeballs, when I looked up eyeballs, they're only like $3 to $6. Yeah. And a heart, I think I'll just get one heart, and it's just like a pig heart or whatever. That's just $11. Yeah. So I learned that, but they really had fun cutting into the brain, and
right.
And I had a YouTube going at the same time, so it was really cool, and it was one of those moments where I felt like this is why I homeschool.
Right.
Yeah.
To be able to be there, to do it together, to watch their every reaction. It's really neat.
Yeah.
Okay, so my scoop is that we're back to all of our activities. We had our vacation, and now we're back to all of our activities. And it's really interesting to see how full my schedule is because we had this amazing 3 weeks off, and now it's back to the music class for the little guy. It's the, all the dance classes for my big girl. She's taking 6 classes every week now. Wow. And then piano and ukulele. My little guy has his dance class too. And then now it's Nutcracker. Mm-hmm. And I don't know by the time this airs what will be happening. And my husband doesn't listen until it airs. But I know that...
You're pregnant.
No. That would be a fun announcement.
That would be funny to
tell him through here. He might die. But no, nothing there. But... the studio owner really needs another adult couple to be in the show.
Oh, awesome.
And Jake is always like, no, I don't want to,
Well, he's a good dancer.
He
is. Totally
an actor. And so anyway.
I want to pay tickets to go see that show.
Maybe he'll have said yes. So we'll see. By the time this airs, I'll post it. He said yes. Anyway, so it's been fun being back to all of our activities. I think I had put so much of our life kind of on hold leading up to the vacation that coming back from it.
And it was summer.
It's just like, bam, you know, and here it is. But we had a blast at ukulele today with your family. Mm-hmm. And it was even fun having a reunion with the teacher.
I know.
I had fun.
The teacher was excited to see us.
I think so, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So really he fun. Lit up when he saw you. It was really sweet.
Aww.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really fun. Yeah, all the kids have bonded with him, so it's kind of neat to have them all together. I think that's like one of the cool things about our kids.
Yeah.
Like together, their little tribe is just really fun.
They're better together.
They're better together.
Yeah, it's cute.
Yes.
All
right.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Okay.
So we have our road trips part 3, living the plan, the do's and don'ts. And so I thought we'd kind of stick to somewhat of the same order that we presented the other parts to you. So I wanted to kind of start by going down with the planning of the trip. So creating the plan, and we have the choosing your destination. So I have a do for that. Do research the weather for reals. Look at what the extremes are, what's historically happened, and then what's average, because you want to be prepared for everything. And you want to know, we talked about if you're going to be driving through the snow, you need to know if they could have unseasonably cold weather and you might need chains. When we went on our vacation, we knew that it would be cold up in Grand Tetons and Yellowstone. The lowest low possible was probably around 19 degrees at night, which is really cold.
Yeah, you see your breath.
Right. Oh, beyond that.
Yeah.
That's,
I'm thinking of St. Louis days. Yeah, 19. Yeah, that is cold. That's legit.
So, we wanted to make sure that we had all the right equipment since we were camping. And we did. It turned out that it was 32 degrees, which felt totally doable for us because we were prepared for colder.
Was your tent warm inside once you had been in there for a while, though?
No, it doesn't retain any heat. And we don't have one of those heaters. I think there's all kinds of, not all kinds, but there's definitely a few heaters out there that are made to be safe for uses in tents. But we definitely didn't feel like we needed that. I wore my my knit cap to go to sleep and felt really comfortable.
Were you worried about your 3-year-old getting like frostbite or anything?
Oh, absolutely not.
Okay.
No. So 32 degrees is just barely freezing. So unless he was wet and didn't have any warmth. But I was right next to him, so I could have swooped him in with me if he needed to be. But he had a great sleeping bag of his own, and he pretty much burrowed down to the bottom and just slept down there. So that was good, but it rained.
Oh.
So had we not been prepared for weather in general, we may not even have really thought about the possibility of it raining, but we made sure we staked out our rain fly. So anyway, all that to say, definitely know what is possible on your road trip in all the different areas that you're going, because you never know what you might encounter. Yeah. Any do's or don'ts for...
No.
Okay. So the next is the building the itinerary.
I have some.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I have ask friends for input and then print it out. Right. So whether the friend is the blog or whatever.
Right.
But I had a blog that told us the route to go for the arches.
Yes.
And it was different than how the ranger sends you, or how the map sends you, or how the app sends you. Oh, and then I also had a friend who was just a few days ahead of us tell us which arches to go see. And so I followed both, but it would have been nice to have had it printed out, but because you could lose your wireless or whatever.
Sure.
And then also to go along with that, take notes as you go.
Yeah.
And so, as you are going, it's not about building the itinerary, but you're going to build itineraries in the future.
Right.
So take notes, like, are your kids really into hiking during your, was that friend's advice good advice?
Right. Maybe you aren't a similar family as they are.
Yeah.
And that's not applicable to you.
Yeah. Was the blogger good advice? And then start gauging that as you go. So take advice from friends, and then do record your positives and negatives, things that worked and didn't work during your itinerary.
Right. And I have, along with that, is do bring it with you.
Oh yeah. Jess, do bring it with you.
Yeah. My example for that was, I had in advance had my resource books, the travel guides, the Fodor's travel guide, and whatever the other one is called. And I found a hike that was perfect for kids. It was a short hike, it was flat, and it goes out to the end of the Grand Canyon. So you have a canyon view, but most of the hike is forested. So it was a different type of hike than the rest of the Grand Canyon hikes. You're not cliff hiking. So I really wanted to do that one. It's an unmarked trailhead. One guidebook didn't even mention that. The other guidebook did mention it. It's not on any of the Grand Canyon maps that you get, even the hiking map.
Oh, my word.
Not on there. And so, and the trailhead is completely unmarked. So you drive by, it's a random parking lot. You see cars there, but there's like a little gate that you can tell you're not allowed to drive through. So you don't know what that is. Mm-hmm. So you can take your chance going there, but there's no ranger to tell you can pass. Mm-hmm. So had I not known for sure that we were at the right place based on the travel guide telling me, it's going to be 7.2 miles from this point to this parking lot. It'll be on your left. It's unmarked. And I was like, oh, well, I'm glad I had the book with me. Otherwise, we would have had to give up.
Yeah. And what a bummer, because that was a beautiful hike, right?
Yeah.
Trail.
It was totally worth going. Mm-hmm. And when I post my blog post about this road trip and all the good things that I found, it's definitely a highlight. Because if you have little kids who don't love hiking and you're worried about them, this is perfect.
Yeah,
it's short and sweet. We saw tons of animals.
And the Grand Canyon hikes don't have fences and there's lots of drop-offs. So we barely got to do any hiking. Right. Even along the rim, because even the rim walk doesn't
terrifying.
have the fence up. They might have a few little rocks.
Right.
But some places there were none of that.
Yeah.
So eventually we just got to parent.
Right.
Just
I can't keep
out.
doing this.
Okay, now we've done
had enough.
We've seen enough of the rim. You know.
And so anyway, it was definitely worth doing, but I would have been lost without that guide, you know, and it was something I already knew that was there. Had I gone in blind, I guess it wouldn't have been a problem, but I knew about it ahead of time, and so had I not been able to find it, it would have been disappointing.
I missed out on it. Yeah. So had I gone after you did, then you could have told me, oh, do this, this, and this. That's why asking friends is so important.
Absolutely.
And then one more for that section. Plan what's fun.
Yes.
So I'll go back to the arches. We saw 3 arches, but there's dozens of arches to see. But we at one of the arches, the one that our friend said, it's not that amazing, but the kids loved it. We spent over 2 hours at that one arch because it was like a giant sandbox with things to climb on, like natural things to climb on. And we took off our shoes and socks and we were walking around, and it was and the whole thing was shaded, and this beautiful, like, lovely breeze would come through.
Nice.
So it was nice and cool.
Right.
So with all that to say, after that, the kids had enough fun at the arches, even though it was just one hike.
Right.
And then my son and husband went an extra hike to see the next one.
Okay.
Because that was a little more treacherous. And then we did the sandbox arches. And we were like, we've done it.
We're good.
That was fun. And the kids are starting to get tired and hungry.
Right.
Let's go eat at the Moab Brewery.
Totally.
And have a good time, you know?
So I have a don't for building the itinerary. Mm-hmm. Don't be too rigid. Mm-hmm. It's great to have a really robust plan so that nobody's sitting around going, well, what are we going to do? Or why are we here? However, if you're too rigid, you don't get the 2 hours in the sandbox.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's really important to be more flexible with your plan and to be okay with rearranging. Make your priorities.
Yeah.
Is it your priority to get to that last arch first and go see it, you know, delicate arch or whatever it is? Mm-hmm. What's your priority? And then work from there, and then remember not to be too rigid.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, everyone told us not to go to the delicate arch, which is the Chaps. Right. And even though they said it is the number 1 arch visited, but with little kids. So we paid attention to that. And we had a great time at the arches.
Exactly. Yeah. I think it's important.
Yeah.
All right.
So number 3?
We have, types of accommodations.
I have one for that. Okay. And I've mentioned this before. Bring a hostess gift or buy one along the way if you're going to stay with somebody.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah.
All right. Recreation. Do you have anything for?
Print everything. Print all your tickets.
Right.
Print the directions to get there. Print the opening and closing times. Double check it. You could even call them and double check. And especially if it's COVID time, make sure you have proof of your confirmations and reservations with you.
Absolutely. And if you don't have them printed, or even if you do, have them downloaded on your phone.
Yeah,
screenshots.
Yeah.
Because a lot of things are scannable. So it's nice when you have it on your phone. But my phone pretty much didn't work in any of the national parks.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right. Travel prep.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about food on this one.
Yes, go for it.
So I packed a lot of food, and what I'm going to say is don't pack a lot of food.
Yeah.
Because basically I wasted a ton of money on all the snacks that I bought, the Hawaiian bread rolls. And here's what I did. I put the snack bag back where I couldn't reach it. You know, I had little snacks for the first day.
Right.
But I didn't feel like climbing in the back and getting this Costco zipper bag out.
Yeah.
because we're not camping.
Right.
So there's no reason for me to get that out except on a 7-hour drive or whatever. So that they all got gross and melted, and so what I suggest is pack your first meal of your trip.
Okay.
So we stopped at Vegas on the way to Colorado as our first stop, and it was so nice because we didn't have to worry about buying, although they have an In-N-Out there, but we didn't have to worry about buying anything. We got to the hotel, and we've just driven like 4 hours or 5 hours, and now we can sit at the hotel, and I have the salami, cheese, the crackers,
just chill.
Whatever, and we could hang out, enjoy the hotel room, which kids love to do. And then we could go out and do our thing. And it wasn't like, oh, first we have to find a place to eat, and then we can do what we want to do. Right. And then the other thing is keep snacks accessible.
Right. So I did that. We had a bin, and I got a smaller one, not one of the giant IKEA size bins, but I got a smaller one. And I mean, maybe it's 10 by 10. So it was more accessible, and I had 2 stacked.
Oh, yeah.
So I had our medicines and sunscreens and everything in one. And then on top of it was the snacks. And then I made sure it was just car snacks that I was okay with everybody eating in the car.
Oh, yeah, that's great.
You know, meat sticks, whatever. But again, we were camping, and so we definitely had a lot of food in the car.
That's true.
Not enough for the whole trip, but more. And then I have a do, which is a snack box. I showed Sophia what I was going to make, and then I gave her the option. Would you like a snack box, or can you just handle individual snacks as they go? But I knew with my August, who's 3.5, that he wouldn't even necessarily eat all of one snack and then be asking immediately for another, and I couldn't deal with that. Yeah. So the snack box, I just did a big Snapware. And then I put in little silicone cupcake holders. And then I would pre-fill it.
Cute.
So before we left that morning, I had it pre-filled. The peanut butter pretzels, the dried
Goldfish.
strawberries, the cheddar bunnies, the gummy bunnies, you know, all the novelty snacks that make it fun and exciting. And then I think on the first leg, I had some like fresh like mandarin oranges or tangerines or something. And so they were able to have those in their box. And then here's the box.
Did they ever take off the lid and it all went flying?
It didn't.
That's amazing.
Well, I would hand it to him with the lid off.
Oh, okay.
And then
he would just pick out what he wanted?
Well, he would just eat from the box.
That's
He'd keep it in his lap. It never went anywhere. So it was really successful. And then I would just refill it. So I always kept it in the snack box or bin up in my front seat. And it was really successful.
Did you take any pictures of that?
I took pictures. Oh, they're in my reels on our Instagram where he's holding the box.
Cute.
Yeah, he's in his little seat.
I have one more thing for that. For just since it's travel preparations, we talked a lot about car maintenance and all that stuff. And we've mentioned this, but do get gas when you can.
Right. Don't wait too long. It could, you never know which ones are closed. They don't announce it ahead of time, and then suddenly you've got 50 more miles, and that could be
stressful.
Okay, I do have a final one for travel prep, and it's do check your roadside kit. So my parents did part of this road trip with us, and they ended up getting a flat tire on Highway 14 in Colorado, which is like all mountain roads.
Oh my word!
It was fine because my dad had his repair kit,
and he knows how to change a tire,
and he even knows how to change a tire. And they're AAA members, so they're like triple covered. However, the easier thing to do than to change your tire is to fix your flat. So you can have the fix the flat, and then get a tire plug kit. So that's on my list. I don't have one. I have the fix the flat spray that hopefully can get you a little bit.
That.
You suggested the dry flat
the
tires.
dry flat, yeah.
Right. But my dad, run flat. But my dad has the tire plug kit. So you do what the instructions tell you to do. You have to wait a little bit of time for it to secure, and then you're good.
Yeah.
He drove
and then
all the way, and he didn't have to replace the tire.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
What a waste of time and money to replace the tire when you could just plug it.
Right. And so it was still maybe an hour total that he was on the side of the road waiting for it. So luckily, it's not too hot. There's definite factors, but it probably would have taken 3 hours round trip or 3 hours for the total time of a AAA person to come if he didn't have everything to change his spare, or what if the spare is broken?
Let's find out which one he used and let's link that on here.
I will. I didn't know before I had this. It occurred to me at the very last second.
We'll link it on the podcast page.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Moving on to confirmations, and it was my same do that you print everything.
Oh yeah.
So that's just kind of a little
goes together with
overlapping. But do print everything and download it to your phone. And then we have travel partners.
Okay.
Anything for that?
So I think step 7 is really mental health. Okay. So you
do explain.
In order to be a good travel partner yourself, you need to have good mental health during the trip.
Sure.
And so
positive mindset.
Totally.
Yeah, good attitude, flexibility. Yeah.
Definitely. So I have plan driving content with others.
Yes.
What you're going to be learning or talking about or going to. Make sure that all the travelers, okay. But also be willing to take phone calls from friends because that actually gives you a break from each other.
Sure.
So if you don't have anything, if it's just 2 adults traveling together with their kids or shared kids or 2 friends, it's still nice to be able to talk to someone who's not on the trip with you.
Right.
Or you barely see on the trip, right?
Because what do you do when your friend calls you in the middle of the trip and you're like, how's it going?
Yeah.
You're going to reframe things positively.
Yeah, you're going to think of all the fun things you are doing.
Right.
And it'll help. I love that point. Yes. Yeah. So, and my friend who's a travel agent actually taught me that because she says that's why she always takes phone calls or makes phone calls, because even though you think, oh, this is our family time, we're not going to interrupt. But if it's downtime,
right,
and you're just driving,
right,
why not call someone and get a break from the only other person that is your equal, if you want to say that.
Yeah.
So I thought that was so do take phone calls from friends or do call friends to talk to. Okay. Also part of your mental health is bring your Bible or your daily affirmations.
Sure.
Do pray before each leg, you know, and pray for each other, not as preaching. Let's pray that this person's a little more patient with other people. You're not going to do that.
Right. your passive aggressive prayers.
Yeah. Let's not do that.
Work.
Yeah. But and something I have done, I didn't think to do it for our Colorado trip because that was 17 days or however long. But normally when I travel with someone, I have a gift for them per night that we stay. So you got the Donut Road Trip pants, I think is what I gave you. But when I've gone to, I went to Big Sur with someone for 4 nights and a friend, and I had a little gift with a Bible verse for her to open every day. Cute. I did that for my parents in Santa Cruz. They each had a thing to open every day. And even at just a $5 Starbucks gift card each day. But that kind of lightens it, and you have it to look forward to, and it's a way
cute.
Yeah, it's a way you're filling back up the cup that strong personalities like me tend to empty. No. We tend to poke holes in the bottom of your cup. Yeah. And so we got to do some filling up too. Right. So I would say, do bring things with you that will show appreciation to your travel partners.
Right.
And do bring things with you that will fill your own cup.
Right. Do you do that for your spouse?
No.
Yeah.
So that's what I should do.
Right.
That's one of the things I learned. Actually you're going to have the most tension. I mean, some of us will have the most tension with our spouse because you're less willing to give grace and kindness to them during a trip like that. Whereas when you're with a friend, I'm totally willing to let so many more things slide.
Totally.
It's whatever. Right. We're not sharing our every day together, so I don't need to address
this. Cool.
It
could be like this for now.
Yeah, whatever, So I'm a little annoyed. Who cares? I don't need to fix
it.
I don't need to fix anything. Yeah.
Oh, geez,
and then one other thing that goes with that is, so you have the do's, all these do's of how to appreciate people and feed yourself good thoughts and positivity. And then don't let the trip rely on one person for everything. Yeah. Because then that person is going to be constantly pouring out. And if the other travel partner isn't filling up your cup, you're going to be empty.
It's empty.
Yeah. So share the load. And if you're the one that's the planner, like me, I'm the planner, I'm the router, I'm the education content, I'm everything for trips. Whoever I go with, maybe not with you, but usually the people who I go with, but certain people that I go with, I am doing everything for. Right. And what I need to do is say, I'm willing to do this and this. What are you willing to do?
Right.
and then you're sharing it, and then that way no one's cup gets emptied.
Right. Find a way to support each other. So if this person's put a lot into it, then maybe your job is to be the one giving the grace and giving the support and affirmations. You know what I mean? Because it can be exhausting.
Yeah. Like a little, like if your spouse or friend is planning the trip, then you bring something that makes them feel loved.
Right.
And I did that with my friend who was the travel agent.
Right.
She planned the whole trip, and it was 2 weeks. We went all over Europe. We went to Poland. We did the Danube, and I had a gift for her every single day to open. Aww. And it made. And I didn't even share a room with her. I shared with one of her friends, you know. And I had
you also have gifts for.
But it just they felt loved, and they were little tiny things that make.
Right.
And then I had room in my suitcase on the way back to bring home things. Yeah,
that's really cool. Okay. Let's switch over into the educational component of everything. So we kind of have like the same ideas, but we have curriculum. So I kind of have the same one as your travel plan, which is don't be too rigid.
Yeah.
You know, you want the learning to be fun. You want it to be applicable to what you're doing. And you do want it in some ways to be organic. So the more that you're pushing and forcing, the less all of those things happen. And so you want to be flexible while at the same time trying to reach your goals.
Yeah, we have a friend who just got back from an RV trip for 3 weeks, and she had all this stuff planned. She's going to use documentaries and show the TV while they drove the RV. Well, did you know when an RV is driving, none of the electricity works. Yeah. So you can't do that. So she was like, well, guess that's it.
That's out the plan. Yeah, out the window. Yeah.
So I have learning from that and from my own experience.
Right.
Don't insist on educational materials. So that supports exactly what you just said.
Right. If it's not fun, organic, and you know, like we didn't use half the stuff I brought. You know, because it felt like forcing it. My daughter just wanted to read Harry Potter. My son just wanted to go get dirty, pour dirt on his face. I don't know, you know, and then my husband was fine just, you know, watching and chilling. And so I didn't need to force it. I didn't feel disappointed because I wasn't overly rigid about it. And, you know, I wasn't trying to check boxes. I just had it there. So when we did have questions, you know, we could read Who Pooped in the Park, Grand Teton, you know, and then it was fun, but otherwise I didn't force it. So we really didn't get through as much as I had hoped. And at the end of it, I was a little bit sad because I returned like stacks of books to the library. But you know what? It didn't matter. I did a lot of work. I felt good about what we did. The kids definitely learned plenty. Yeah. You know, and so I didn't need to force it.
Yeah. And to go with that, with the whole flexibility and everything, if they're fine educating themselves, it's kind of like how our school days are.
Right.
If they're educating themselves and they're researching something or they're doing coding on the computer, I'm not going to interrupt that and say, let's go do math.
Right.
You know, I'll just say, remember you have math to do today.
Right. All learning is important, and that's ultimately what we're trying to instill in our children. And so when you're taking them away and saying, well, that's not important as what I want to teach you, that's not really instilling the right message for them.
Yeah. And I think, like for us, I knew we would have like an 8-hour stretch, and I knew there was no way they're going to not get bored. So that's when I would plan a who is or a who was book. Right. So I would say do bring who was books or where is or those that we mentioned in the educational component. But find ones that work for multiple legs of a trip.
Totally.
And then bring it out when they're like, oh, are we almost there? And then you're like, hey, let's read about this. And then the other reason for educational component is do give them things that will enrich the experience of where they are going or where they went. Right. That will make that experience better for them. Yeah. But if it's just extra, then you can just leave that alone.
Right. You don't have to.
Another thing you can do with that, knowing that maybe you wouldn't be able to cover everything, is do more leading up to it. So with Alaska, I was really good about that. I did a whole month. That was our school for a whole month, was learning about Alaska and watching the live cams and things like that. For Colorado, all I did was we were going to go to this rock art installation. So I had us all paint rocks ahead of time and make our own. And so then it was really cute because we sat there and we piled them up. So that was the one thing that I did. And we did Trekking the National Parks board game. But that was it. But I could have done so much more.
It's endless.
So that then when we were on the trip, there was less pressure. And it was just more of them wanting to hear more about it or diving into the books on their own. Yeah. And there was less pressure.
Yeah. definitely. Anything?
Also, you alluded to this too. Don't treat each child the same.
Oh, sure.
And so I got a little depressed actually on my Colorado trip because I had this activity book ready to go and only my youngest one to do it. Well, the thing is, it requires reading. So I actually...
She's the one who was less capable of
Yeah.
doing it.
And so I can't actually help her because I'm not sitting back there.
Right.
And there's no seat for me. So I need the other kids to read to her and help her with that. But they don't want to. They have their headphones. They're listening to their books on tape.
Right.
Or their music. And they're content. So I don't want to interrupt them. And so then I'm feeling like, like all these hours I spent on this activity book are not getting utilized. And so then I was tempted to treat everyone the same. Say, okay, everybody do it.
Right.
Everybody needs to do it right now. But then at the same time, if I don't do that, then she doesn't get to do it. So there's this weird balance of trying to figure out how to handle not treating everyone the same, but still helping people with what they need help with. Yeah. When you're in the front. And I can't switch places. None of my kids are old enough to sit in the front.
Nor can you keep looking backwards because you're going to
get car sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
All right. So moving on to the fun things. So there's fun things that are educational, the games and all of that stuff. Do you have any do's and don'ts around the fun things?
It's just do some of the fun things ahead of time.
Yeah,
Teach the game ahead of time.
Right.
So then when you bring the game, you know they already like it and they already know how to play. Whereas and that was my plan with trekking the national parks, but then I ended up not bringing it because it took up too much space.
It's such a big game.
And we weren't going to be camping.
Right.
So we were literally going to be on the move. And then if we were in the hotel, I knew we were just going to want to watch.
Right. Who's going to want to carry it
Carbonaro effect or something, So, yeah, and we'd have to carry it in.
Right.
But I would say learn the games ahead of time.
Yeah.
And then bring them.
That's a great one. I don't have anything else for fun games, so do you have any other ones that kind of don't fit any of those categories?
No, that was it.
Awesome. So those are our do's and don'ts for road tripping. And then on part 4, we're going to actually share some of our real road trips, not
like
the
routes.
details.
Yeah.
But yeah, just for ideas, like a favorite family road trip from each of us, a combined road trip, and then how we road trip with our co-op.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for part 4. And
if you want to hear the previous episodes, you can tune in to Road Trip Part 1 and Part 2.
Yep. But now it's time for the
Coop Q&A,
where we answer your questions. If you have a question you want us to answer, head over to the podcast page on our website, thecoophomeschool.com, or email us, mamahens@thecoophomeschool.com.
All right, so I'll ask the question.
Yes, what's your question, Mandy?
How do you pick which unit studies to do?
That's fun. Okay. I pick them usually based on, there's two ways. Interest, and then actually, in California, we have our I Can statements or the state standards. And so, for example, I knew that 4th grade, we do a lot of California state history. So I have a whole unit study planned later all about California history. So kind of two
I'm going to be
things.
doing with you because you posted it so we can... Yeah, and so I learned from you how one way to choose is based on their development.
Oh, sure.
So human body, you thought of doing human body last year because you knew your daughter was starting into puberty.
Right.
And so you wanted to make sure she understood her body.
And was comfortable and
Yeah, and so that's what we're doing now, and that's perfect. I have an 11-year-old boy and a 9-year-old girl. They're actually starting puberty at the same time, So that's one way. And then another way is, like you said, interest. It could be your interest, but it could also be the kid interest.
Absolutely.
So I did one on transportation when my son was 5 because he was interested in transportation, you know. And we dive more into unit studies in episode 29.
Yep.
And you can hear some of our unit studies that we've done. But, there's different curriculums, or you can just create your own.
Absolutely.
And you can go on, like, Gather Around Homeschool is they do a lot of unit studies, and so they're faith-based, so you can go onto Facebook page and ask to join their group, and you'll hear everyone talking about which unit studies they like the best and what they used it for and what ages it worked best for. And so you can get a lot of advice on Facebook regarding unit studies if you pick a certain curriculum.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, that's it. Tune in next time.
Thanks for listening. We love your support. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast, leave a rating and review to let us know how we're doing, and share our podcast with your friends who need a little community, humility, and joyful fun in homeschooling.